Hello. This is going out to my fellow INFJ, somewhat bread tuber type person. Oh yes, a little tuber. Rad mom. Yeah, that's funny. I did not think about the fact that I was calling you a small potato. But, in a sense, we're both, you're farther along than I am, but we're both at the lower range of the totem pole of YouTube, and I just felt like, yours is a channel that I wanted to, I don't know about emulate, but sort of, have some kinship with. I think we're coming from largely the same kind of place. And one issue that I immediately thought about is I wonder if, when all is said and done, or, maybe hopefully already when we could have this conversation, but will there maybe be a sort of a, I don't know, coming to Jesus moment, but some sort of a light bulb that goes off to say, like, maybe the way that we are getting treated by being called TERFs, we being you, rad femmes who are, truly left-leaning, the real deal TERFs, is there not an analogy here between the way that TERFs are treated by the trans establishment and how left-leaning men's rights advocates might have been treated or are still treated by the mainstream rad femme trans accepting, or even, the TERFs? Who knows? I think a lot of J.K. Rowling's fears about, because she's very explicit that she's not really so much afraid of trans people. She's afraid of the other men who will come in after them. And she might also be afraid of some of the trans men, trans women, trans femmes. I like that. Trans femme and trans masc, I think, actually captures it, because masculine and feminine, those are the actual genders of, like, words, but male and female is the language that we were all taught by the trans community, with assigned female, assigned male at birth. If that's the gender you're assigned as male or female, and you're not assigned man or woman or boy or girl at birth, then why is it that suddenly trans women are women? Trans women are female identifying men by their own rules that they taught us and are now going back on. And which, of course, they stole the terminology from the intersex, but I've been over that before. But yeah, I think there's a real parallel there, where it's having this heterodox opinion becomes a purity test of your left-leaningness, your bona fides, and you end up shunned by people who really don't know you at all, have no reason to think that you're a secret Nazi or a secret whatever. With us, with the left-leaning men's rights advocates, that we become patriarchy, we become sexist, regressive, whatever, and and we're all just Jack Sparrow fans. Really, we couldn't possibly have noticed anything going on there. And that's one thing I want to mention too. I saw one of your recent, I forget which video it was. Oh, it was with the Italian lesbian chick, Ariella, whatever. Yeah. You were saying that she was so close to getting it, that these are narcissists. They're borderlines, really. And that's the men and the women. They're borderlines. There are some psychologists or psychiatrists, whatever. There are some professionals who think that this trans is basically a subset of borderline personality disorder. They're, they might be narcissists too, but that's what they really are, where the problem is really coming from, is this identity disturbance thing, and, the incredible amount of paranoia and, really aggressively self-protective attitudes. It's all straight out of the borderline textbook, playbook, whatever, rule book. The place where the borderlines get all of their batshit fucking crazy abusive ideas is exactly where the sort of mainline insane trans rights advocate, they fab shit comes from. Whether they're assigned male or female at birth, it doesn't really matter. There's plenty of male borderlines too. But as I was noting on a post today over at BPD Loved Ones, without the PMDD or whatever, it sounds like PM Dawn, but it's, you know what that is, and you know that it makes a big difference, actually, to the character of the borderline to have that once a month, I'm just going to indulge myself in hating you. I'm pretty sure that the shit that women get for PMSing is really, it's because of the borderlines who used it as their excuse for everything. And for that matter, getting back to J.K. Rowling, when you do the sort of cui bono or whatever, but, who benefits from a law or a situation or a policy of the Duluth model and the power and control wheel, who benefits from casting all abuse as fundamentally an issue of male privilege? It's not actually female victims that benefit the most. They might benefit, and they have, I'm sure, benefited. I'm sure that the model has actually done some good for some women who needed some good to be done. But the ones who benefit the most, who maximize the benefit, are the ones like Amber Heard who will go out and tell everybody that you're the abuser while they're actually the ones who've been doing it to you the whole time. And they can get away with it because the Duluth model expressly says that if it's abuse, it's a male privilege issue. It fundamentally is not something women can do. They'll say, oh no, we know that they can. It's just not in any circumstance that you're actually pointing out. For any specific woman, it's not true, but it is generally true. It could happen, but when it does, it's actually reactive abuse, because of the power and control thing that, of course, no woman could ever possibly have, because patriarchy has taken all of the power and control away, and you're just helpless victims. TERFs and left-leaning MRAs, now, again, there are real transphobes out there, but I wouldn't call them TERFs. And there are real, red pill, incel, Andrew Tate guys out there doing the MRA thing. But it is very possible to be an advocate for men's rights in a world where there's even a question of whether Amber Heard or Johnny Depp was the guilty party. I've listened to the 4-hour and 20-minute recording of that they have, that one conversation that is 4 hours and 20. It's not a weed thing, but start to finish. And I challenge anyone out there who's got any questions at all about Amber Heard, listen to that for 4 hours and 20 minutes and listen to every time that it seems like the conversation might resolve in some sort of at least not unpleasant manner. And just every single time, she just churns it again. And churns it in a way that is unresolvable. There's nothing he can do. There's nothing he can say. Because the answer is just going to be, well, I'll change in the future. You're just going to have to wait until the next time we have a fight in order to see whether or not I can even do the thing that you're asking me to do, assuming that what you're asking is reasonable or is actually what the problem is that we're having or anything. Even if I just take it all as, sure, you're right, Amber. Everything you're saying is absolutely right, and I am the problem every single time. And it's just that one thing that you need me to change. It's that I'm always the problem. I get it. It's not a major problem. Really, it's just this one thing that I fundamentally fuck everything up for you always. and you never do anything wrong because it comes down to me and my one problem. It's so insidious and awful, and the whole notion of male privilege just evaporates. There is no male privilege. I mean, let's just get past this. There is no male privilege. Or if there is an equal amount of female privilege that is in different areas and does not include being believed ever when you are the victim of fucking assault by someone who claims to love you. Like, ever. Nobody ever, unless you are literally bleeding and their name is carved into your skull. That's where the blood is coming from. Like, it'll be, well, it's reactive abuse. You must have really pissed her off for her to do that to you. This is her just taking back what little power she can from your big male testicles. It's really awful. And it's no different. It's the exact same thing. Why? Because it's the exact same fucking disorder. Whether they're screaming transphobia at you or they're screaming fucking patriarchy at you, we're the same. We're suffering from the same thing. We are getting darvoed in every conversation that we have with these freaks. And again, I don't think they're all free. I know some trans people who are actually very cool. Very, very, very cool. I don't think that it is always a borderline thing. But I do think that this current population, the ones that Buck Angel is complaining about, because Buck's a left-leaning person too. He's as liberal as you could get, really. And again, there are the SWERFs, the sex worker exclusionary radical feminists, who are going to complain about Buck doing porn and whatnot. But fuck them anyway. I think we've got to just kind of get past some of that, because there are, of course, the demographic that gets the trans murder thing is the ultimately male sex workers, and male sex workers of color in particular. That one's a dark and foreboding issue that speaks to all sorts of systemic problems, but I'm not going to victim blame and say that you shouldn't be, a sex worker if you're trans and of color. People should be able to do what they want and not get killed. We can all agree on that much. Yeah. But, I think that for too long, it's just virtue signaling and this sort of like herd hive type thing has been going on the left. And it's inevitable that there's going to be like purity tests, and there's going to be, some amount of circling the wagons that happens whenever you've got any kind of group of people who are only bound together by the concept that they do share some ideology. King Critical had a really good takedown of Sean's attempt at taking down Posey Parker as being a Nazi, saying like, well, if you're a one-issue campaigner, then it literally follows that you're going to be affiliating with people whose other policies you don't agree with. Because if you wanted 100% agreement, you wouldn't be a one-issue campaigner. You would be we've got to do the full purity test, and you're sufficiently woke, I will work with you. But that's not what Posey Parker is doing. Kelly Jean Keane, whatever. I'm a 90s guy. I like Parker Posey a lot, so I say Posey Parker. It's easy to remember. But you remember the sensitive 90s guy? I don't know how old you actually are. Yeah. That was a big deal. Reviving Ophelia was big. This is the moment for, when I was 15, say, and there was Nirvana's Incesticide with Kurt saying, hey, anybody who's got a problem with women or gay people at our shows, fuck you, we don't want your money anyway, get the fuck out. You have Tori Amos singing Me and a Gun. You've got Reviving Ophelia on the charts. It was a a heady time of, the Riot Girls shit was happening, obviously. Courtney Love was maybe not the best of them, but, certainly her marriage to Kurt brought all of that up to the top of the cultural milieu. And, I had a lot of, I feel a lot of guilt. There's some YouTuber, I need to look this up because I saw he did a great British guy, kind of looks like me a little bit, younger, but like similar hair thing, whatever. And he has a deeper voice because he's actually XY, but he was talking about like how sex ed and just this, and sort of, a more advanced sex ed, you might say, sort of inculcated, boys, teens of our age with this notion that that our desire for sex was fundamentally like an aggressive and colonialist sort of impulse, that we were always taking something from a woman, even if she offered it freely. And it makes it very difficult to bust a move when you feel that, as I'm certain that at least one feminist writer of the time said, every act of sex is an act of rape. That's a really fucked up thing to put into a bunch of generation of men's heads. And, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where a lot of the trans stuff also comes from. On the male side, of course, we have seen it's completely switched to where now it's mostly girls who are having the rapid onset gender dysphoria, previously known as puberty. But now we have a cure for puberty for girls, which is really all that we're dealing with there. That one's just so obvious. Like, girls have never really enjoyed their boobs the first couple of years of having them. Here's a way you can just, the game of life, a little shortcut through the whole thing. But, not the best long-term strategy, probably. I know I've got a vested interest in that as a boob appreciator, but, they're pretty cool, It's not something you just willy-nilly get rid of, but, I think we all hopefully are aware of that. But the point is that the guys doing it, who maybe the AGPs, maybe some of them at least, I would not surprise me if there's a sense of we're all just rapists waiting for the right moment to lose our shit and do it, right? We're all potentially that thing that everybody is worried. Every woman that, walks with her keys out in the parking lot or crosses the street across from us or whatever. And the actual figures, of course, don't justify that kind of fear of men. While it's true that men commit, almost all of the, the violent crimes that aren't IPV, when it's, then it's fine. But, women aren't doing it as much out there in public, and the ones who rape are not doing it in the same way. But again, we know that, with both IPV and rape, it is much more likely to come from, and of course with IPV, it's going to come from somebody that you know very well. And so the whole, be afraid of every man you see, a dark alley thing, it's justified in some sense, but men are much more likely to get fucked up in a dark alley than a woman ever is. That's just how it is. But we don't walk around with our keys all, whatever. You deal with it when it happens. You don't go around. If you thought that way about black people, say, it would be problematic. But you think that way about men, and it's not problematic because everybody knows that's how it is. It's like, well, everybody knows black people commit all the crime too, but we can't. You don't think that way because it's a few black people committing all the crime and it's a few men doing all the raping and murdering. It's not just evenly distributed across the whole entire population, So yeah, the statistics are there, but they're not telling you the whole story about every single person that might walk by you or whatever. It's there's nuance that really needs to be appreciated. And hopefully, this is one of those, eternal optimist INFJ things, is I would hope that maybe at the end of this all, the leftist MRAs will get a nice little, sorry that we called you patriarchal rapists and fucking women-hating asshole pirate lovers. Amber Heard is obviously guilty, sorry, the TERFs. But, anyhow. So hi, rad femme, mom, hi, rad mom femme. And yeah, let's normalize the whole trans femme, trans mask, because that's what they want in a sense, right? We wouldn't be like misgendering them by calling, trans femmes. They're still men, and, we know that, they know that. We don't have to rub it in their face, but we're not going to call them women either. Works for me. Anyhow, XXYYs, signing off.